Hello. So, in the Catholic tradition, official church documents are always released in Latin before any other language because it's the universal language of our church. And the titles of these documents always come from the first couple words of the first sentence of these documents. And so, as a result, when the authors are creating these, the first sentences can usually be some pretty weighty, important sentences because they're trying to capture the main idea of an entire document in one sentence. And I think one document that does this especially well is called Ex Corde Ecclesiae, and that translates to mean from the heart of the church. It was written by Pope John Paul II, and it's a document that details the role of the Catholic University, and it also gave some guidelines for how they should be governed. And a lot of colleges today are still governed by that document, so it's really important in the grand scheme of things. But I want to focus on back on that title again, that from the heart of the church. Because if we think about what a heart does, it pumps blood throughout the body to keep it alive. And so when John Paul is saying that the Catholic University is springing from the heart of the church, it seems to me that he's saying that the Catholic University sustains the church and keeps it alive. And that's quite the compliment if you think about it. And I think this pairs really well with Bellarmine University's motto, in veritatis amore, in the love of truth. So if you kind of put those two phrases together, from the heart of the church and the love of truth, from the heart of the church and the love of the truth, I think you can start with those two phrases as kind of the building blocks of a case for why a Catholic university is relevant in today's times and will also be relevant in the future and valuable. So the first idea I kind of want to explore here is the age of the Catholic Church as an institution. So it is one of the oldest, if not the oldest, continually operating institution in the world. It's been around for almost 2 millennia at this time, and for roughly half of its existence, it has been sponsoring, developing, and supporting the development of the university. And as a Catholic university, I think that puts you in a very unique position because your sponsor has been part of so much of history. It's been actively involved in them, or at least watched from the sidelines, seeing significant developments happen, historical events play out. And more often than not, the church has been on both sides of some of these events, or both sides of a new idea that's shown up. And so I think that creates such a huge wealth of collective wisdom just waiting for professors and students and the surrounding community of a Catholic university to engage in. I think an example that illustrates the point I'm trying to make here is to think if you've ever had like a wise grandparent or a respected community leader. There might be a lot of reasons why you respect these people, but one in particular is probably just because they've been through so much. They've experienced so much. They've had some incredible failures that they've bounced back from and lived to tell about. And they've had some incredible successes that they can be proud of for the rest of their life. So you may not always agree with the perspective that they have, but you're always going to find it valuable. And it's certainly going to expand your worldview regardless. And so the next idea I want to look at is that the Catholic University, again, as a product of springing from an institution that makes moral claims, ideally should have all academic disciplines should be viewed through an ethical lens. And I think this is valuable for a couple different reasons. But first, because I think it's something that you can use to integrate different fields of knowledge. When you have this cohesive theme running through all disciplines, you're providing something that can be used to tie them together and show how they build upon one another and how they interact. And I think that's particularly valuable from a liberal arts perspective, where it values the integration of knowledge over just the compartmentalization of it. And then I also think it's important and valuable because I never think it's wrong to invite someone into a consideration of right and wrong. So imagine if you are a big CEO of a big company and you ask one of your smartest, most informed employees to come up with some strategies to make you some more money. If you follow their advice, you could you could make yourself a very wealthy person potentially. But if you don't stop and to consider the ethical consequences of some of your decisions, you could find yourself in hot water really quickly. For example, what if you're making more money at the expense of your employees, or you're damaging the surrounding community, or you're even damaging your company's reputation or brand in the process of making more money? These are all things that you want to avoid. And so I never think it's a bad thing to flood society with more individuals who are willing to consider, is this right or is this wrong? And then the last idea that I have today is really two ideas that I've worked into one. And it's taking the Catholic concept of mystery and the Catholic concept of absolute truth and uniting those to form an incredibly beneficial educational philosophy that I don't think can be found anywhere else. And so these terms might sound self-explanatory, but I want to go into them a little bit just to make sure we're on the same page. So when we talk about the Catholic concept of absolute truth, we're saying that you can come to know things with certainty and that they're universally true no matter where you go. And what's more is that it's positive to know these things because these truths are rooted in God. And so when you're discovering these truths, no matter how silly they may seem, you're coming to a knowledge of God, and that's a good thing. You're coming to a knowledge of the Creator. And then when you look at, combine this with the idea of mystery, I think things can get even better. Because there's this common misconception that when we talk about mystery, that it's kind of a shoulder shrug and an I don't know. But that's not really what we mean. We mean that it is possible to know something and to come to a certainty of it, but it's so complex and vast and nuanced that you're never going to fit it in your life, in the concept in its entirety into your brain during your lifetime. No matter how long you study it or how long you live, you're never going to grasp it entirely. So to me, when you put those ideas together, you start off with the premise that knowledge is obtainable and you can be certain about it. And then you move forward to it's good to learn and to obtain knowledge. And then you end up, lastly, with the idea that you can never run out of things to learn. There's never a stopping point in your education. You know, no matter how much you study, you'll never grasp it all. And I think that that is an educational philosophy that really can do a lot of good. And in fact, I would find it to be a good antidote to a lot of the political climate that we see today. No one can agree on what a fact is anymore, and people are often very content to have, more than one person in a room and say, well, this is my truth and this is your truth, and be fine with that. But we know that if they're contradictory, they can't both be true. And so either one idea is true and one is false, or they're both false and the true is somewhere in the middle and they've both got to keep exploring to find it. And I think maybe this is an overly optimistic view, but I think that if that kind of idea were to pervade our society, that a lot of those ills that we see in that would start to disappear. Thank you.